Oh god, not a video about a comic book show from a female fan. Shh. Just go with it. This video will contain spoilers for Daredevil Born Again and the other Defenders adjacent shows like Daredevil, Punisher, etc. Ships are a very big part of fandoms, whether you like it or not. It makes sense because romance is usually a big part of stories, and comics are no exception to this. So today, I want to take the time to talk about the romantic ships in Daredevil Born Again, because the Matt and Karen ship really caught me off guard, and it made me curious about what other people are saying on the internet. After scouring social media, I went on a journey that led me to analyzing the ship and the other ships in Daredevil, and I want to articulate my thoughts on why some ships resonate with me and why some ships, they just exist. Hopefully this video can provide some interesting points and conversation starters, because it's always fun to discuss things that you are watching, guys. Let's get a conversation started. As always, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. What are your thoughts about Matt and Karen as a couple? What are your favorite Daredevil or Marvel ships, and why do you like those ships? Part 1. The supportive girlfriend. I would say, right off the bat, I'm not a big fan of Karen and Matt as a romantic couple. I'm not repulsed by them by any means. I'm fine if they decide to continue on this karedevil path, but they're just not my favorite couple. No hate to Charlie Cox or Deborah and Walt, because both of them are incredible actors and they have good chemistry with each other, but it's just like not good romantic chemistry. Because of the lack of romantic chemistry between them, I think that really impacted my enjoyment of the ship. Not to mention, the writing itself leaves a lot to be desired. For me, in the previous show, the Netflix show, while there were hints of attraction, Matt and Karen's relationship had always registered more platonic, and it really doesn't help that between the first and second season of Daredevil Born Again, there's a time jump where Matt and Karen got together during that period, and because of that, we miss a lot of on-screen time that justifies why they got together, like the moments that led them to being a romantic couple. As a result, you don't get attached to them as a couple because you don't have those moments. The thing is, I love Matt and Karen's dynamic overall, but I feel the dynamic works better even if they're just friends. And let's be real, maybe they should have stayed friends. The reason I say that is because Matt is not a particularly good boyfriend to any of the women that he dates, both in the show and in the comics. The only romantic relationship of his that somewhat worked for me is with Elektra, which I will talk about later. But point blank, Matt is a really terrible boyfriend. And that has been a consistent characterization for him in both the show and the comics. Matt's dedication to vigilantism and, let's be honest, his addiction to violence impact his personal life, his interpersonal relationships, and his mental health. But that's what makes him a very fascinating character and my favorite Marvel character ever. His desire to do good, contrasted with his hypocrisy, makes his character and any stories involving him very ripe for character drama. Even if you get frustrated by him, he's still a very compelling character to watch on screen. His duality is what makes him feel human. He's not black or white. He operates in this gray area where he has good qualities, but he also has bad qualities, similar to how people are in real life. Likewise, the characters in his shows and the Defenders shows overall reflect that. These characters are allowed to have good and bad qualities, and it makes them feel more human. Matt can be a good superhero, but he can also struggle with his faith, or with his addiction, or with his hypocrisy, and he can also be a bad boyfriend. But that also means if Matt is going to be paired up with anyone, it cannot be just anyone. It has to be someone who is used to and is able to handle his tendencies and his dedication to fighting crime. I see where Karen comes in that area. In season 3 of the original series, Matt was pushing everyone away from him, and his mother, Sister Maggie, essentially told Karen that Matt is one of those people that will continue to push people away, and so the people around him need to be the ones to hold on to him. That is a nice sentiment and a nice message, but it becomes this lopsided romance where it feels like Karen has to be the one who puts in more work. At least that's how I feel. And because of that lopsidedness, it makes me feel bad for Karen, especially as a woman myself. I've heard a lot of horror stories from women who pour in a lot into a relationship only for the men not to put in as much work. Of course, it's hard to quantify how much work you put into a relationship, and I get that a relationship is about sacrifice, so it cannot be like a 50-50 split, but still, I think there should be an effort from both parties to work on the relationship relationship and to also grow together. I know this is a fictional couple, but it's veering a little too close to reality for me. I'm just saying, I'm sorry for looking out for my sister in Christ, Karen Page. Overall, Matt's romantic relationships, especially with people who do not know of his secret identity, they're pretty messed up. Matt checks out emotionally often, he keeps secrets. When the women try to open that line of communication to discuss what's been going on, he doesn't want to. Let's look at his relationship with Heather Glenn in the first season of Daredevil Born Again. I know many people don't like Heather, but she's always been fascinating to me. She has a lot of potential, but unfortunately, the show didn't delve into that potential in the first season, which I think will change in the second season, so I hope she gets a little bit more to do there. And before people start switching up on her and being fans of her, I would like people to know that I've liked her since the beginning. I was one of the very few people, okay? Anyway, I know that it's very disappointing to see that Heather is siding with Fisk, but I also understand where she's coming from, and that's why she's fascinating to me. She was traumatized by her encounter with Muse, where she was almost killed, leading to her having to kill Muse out of self-defense, and that changes a person. But I think it's unfair for people to be mad at her for thinking that Matt isn't emotionally available for her to be a shoulder to lean on, because imagine if you are in her place. We, as an audience, do know that Matt was there for her, like he tried saving her as Daredevil, but Heather doesn't know that, so I think she's justified in being upset with Matt. But I don't like it when people are mad at Heather for having that reaction. And I understand that there are a lot of circumstances that prevented Matt from revealing his secret identity, and that the intention is noble, like he wants to keep people safe. But from Heather's perspective, her boyfriend checks out when she desperately needs him. When she tries to coax him into seeing her side of things or actually communicating with her, he retaliates, and as a result, she also retaliates. And I think it's disheartening to see people hate her for that, and also calling her naggy. You can condemn her for the way that she reacts to the situation and for her support for Fisk, but to flatten her character as this naggy girlfriend is to ignore the complexities with the character and to also ignore Matt's part in actually breaking down the relationship. Because this whole thing with Heather, with people calling her naggy, with people hating on her for disapproving of Daredevil, it reminds me of this old trope of the female love interest always getting in the way of the male protagonist's noble crusades. This kind of secret identity drama has always been a staple in comic book stories. For the audience, we do understand that the male protagonists have this noble crusade. That's because we are privy to all the information within the story, but the female love interest, they don't know that. And so I think it's normal and it's very valid of them to demand more from their male counterparts. I think it's fair for them to ask what's going on, and I think like the male protagonist should actually tell the women what is going on to make her see their side of things, and for them to also be able to like come clean to the women. It can't just be the women's fault. This kind of secret identity drama has always been a staple in comic book stories because it's the easiest way to generate drama, but it also perpetuates the stereotype of women who always complains, who always nags their husband or their boyfriend, who always disapproves of whatever their husband or boyfriend is doing. Even if what they're doing is just holding their boyfriend or husband accountable for their actions and to be honest in this relationship. It's a normal thing to want accountability and communication and honesty in a relationship. The alternative to that is the supportive girlfriend, where they are incredibly understanding or supportive as the name suggests. There's barely any friction in these people's relationships when it comes to this superheroing. Not even the concern or the drama that might come from your significant other going out there doing something that can potentially get themselves killed. Of course, it's nice to be supported overall, but I also feel like the male superheroes need to still do something in return for the supportive girlfriend. The girlfriends can't just be the only ones carrying the emotional weight of the relationship. They can't just be there to be the superhero's cheerleader. And Karen sadly feels like she's veering to that cheerleader role for Matt in this relationship in Daredevil Born Again. As I mentioned before, them suddenly getting together in season 2 of Daredevil Born Again means there's significant relationship building moments missing that were needed to justify why and how Matt and Karen got together. We've seen what Karen brings to this relationship, her emotional intelligence, her always reaching out to Matt, and her investigative skills. However, we don't really see what Matt does for Karen. And because we don't see Matt putting in the work into the relationship feels hollow, especially when they say I love you to each other in episode 4. Part 2. What women want. though I don't mean to generalize. Overall, I feel like the MCU just doesn't do good romance. There are exceptions like Peggy and Steve, although with them, I feel like they're kind of running it to the ground. Like, enough of them, we get it. And then there's Wanda and Vision, and then Rio and Agatha Harkness. And the reason that I like these couples at least is I feel like these couples have a reason to like each other. It's more than just about coupling two people together. You see the reason why the couples connect mentally and emotionally, and there's also intriguing drama that surrounds these couples. For a lot of women, at least myself, we want to feel the emotional connection or drama or stakes between these couples. That is why in terms of the couples in Daredevil, I like Frank and Karen and Matt and Elektra. First of all, I think both couples have good on-screen chemistry with each other, which is important. But second, the writing of their relationship is also pretty good. I feel the relationship between Karen and Frank is more balanced than her relationship with Matt. Frank recognizes Karen as an individual, capable of taking care of herself. Sure, he protects her, but he never doubts her ability or her intelligence. On Twitter, people shared this clip of Frank and Karen at a diner, and they were talking about Karen's gun, and Frank was like, "This isn't the gun that first-time buyers would buy. You know what gun to get, so you must have experience." And Karen is like, "Well, it's not my first rodeo." And Frank was like, "Yeah, noted. I think there's something nice and appealing about being acknowledged for being capable." And Frank doesn't have this reaction of, "Why would someone like you have a gun?" to Karen when Karen uses her gun. It feels like Frank is able to see Karen for herself. Let me explain. A lot of baggage that Karen has is that she murdered Wesley, Fisk's right-hand man in the first season of Daredevil, and she also feels like she was the reason that her brother died because she was the one who drove the car when she was intoxicated and her brother was there, you know, in the car crash and then he died. It's very sad. Because of those things, Karen never views herself as this perfect person. In fact, she carries a lot of guilt, especially with what happened with her brother. But the people around her seems to view Karen as an angel, especially people like Foggy and Matt. Because of that, I don't think Karen feels seen, but it's different with Frank, who views her more as a human compared to the way that Foggy and Matt view her. Apart from that reason, there's also an element of angst within Kastle as well. There's this question of whether Frank can move on from the grief from losing his wife and kids, and the fact that Frank likes killing people while Karen still has faith that the law can bring justice. And I think that adds more stakes and drama to the relationship. And overall, the chemistry between Deborah and Wall and John Bernthal is very good. Meanwhile, I also like Elektra and Matt. I have to say, I am biased because I like them in the comics, but I think the show does the couple pretty well too. Even if I do feel the show leaves a lot to be desired with the way that it portrays Elektra. Like, I don't really agree with the way they write her. Her darkness is more complex in the comics, whereas in the show, it boils down to the fact that Elektra is possessed by an evil spirit, and that flattens her character. Like, oh, she's bad because she has an evil spirit in her, and it's not because like she's a human being capable of good and bad. But there are still things that I like about Elektra in the show, and I do hope that Elodie Young would come back. In terms of the relationship between Elektra and Matt, to be shallow, it's fun to see someone capable of keeping up with him, and I like the fact that they can fight together. I'm sorry, I'm a sucker for metal couples, okay? But I also like the drama of people around Elektra being like, "You're evil, we should kill you." But Matt is the only one who is like, maybe let's not kill her. I think she's capable of doing good because I feel it in the way that she loves me. They are toxic in the past, for sure, but you can't deny that Elektra comes to find this kinship with Matt because he's the first one to treat her like a human being. It's nice to see Elektra having someone who cares about her enough to say that even if people think that she is destined to be evil, there's someone who believes that she can still be good even with the evil spirit within her. Matt is able to attest to that because he was on the receiving end of that goodness, that even if Elektra was initially manipulating him, she does grow to love him truly. And that's cute. I'm sorry, that's so cute. And to make things even cuter, in the Defenders, Elektra snapped out of her amnesia because of her love for Matt, and Matt was willing to die in Elektra's arms, having a whole building fall on top of him. How does that not, as the kids would call it, eat? And I do think the chemistry between Elektra and Matt, it's good. Part 3, what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say here is that the appeal of the ships for me depends on how good the women are treated in the relationship. With Kastle and Mattelektra, I feel the women are treated more than just a supportive girlfriend. They are treated as equals, and they are acknowledged for their darkness, their light, and their shades of grey. There is an acceptance as well for who they are, and the idea of being seen and being accepted, even with all the drama surrounding that love, I think that's what appeals to the women. That's what is very important in making a good romance for the women. I hope I'm not generalizing anything, but I feel like who doesn't like drama in their story, and you just get more attached to the relationship if there's more drama. The thing is, this exploration reminds me of this video that I did about monster romance and why some women enjoy this genre. Interestingly, in that video, I talked about another Marvel character, Venom, particularly the way that Fandom the movie was marketed in China. The appeal of this monster romance is that the women in the relationship is accepted for who they are. There might be character development that has to happen, but it's always something that if the women dig deep enough within themselves, like for this strength or for this confidence, they would be able to overcome these challenges. On the other side of that as well, the monsters are not tied to traditional patriarchal values. As a result, they don't judge the women based on what is perceived to be valuable in society. For example, in The Shape of Water, the protagonist is an older woman who is deaf. In the time period the movie takes place in, she is considered to be of less value. Despite Sally Hawkins' character being older or being deaf, the fish monster still likes her because he doesn't subscribe to the values of the world, because there was no system that teaches him that older women are not worth love or disabled people are not worth love. Being a monster as well means that these monster love interests are more empathetic to the struggles of the women because they are also sidelined or othered due to their identity. I know I've been talking so long, too long, didn't watch. I think Matt Murdock is just not capable of having a stable relationship. Maybe he should just swear off women. I don't know. I don't think it's possible for him because he's a manhole. Let's keep him single. Let's keep him from the women, girls. Let's keep him away from us. But who knows? As of the filming of this video, all episodes of Daredevil Born Again have yet to be aired, and the Matt and Karen relationship could evolve and get some needed development. I sure hope so, but we'll see how it goes. But let me know what you think. Do you agree with my points? Do you like Matt and Karen together? Do you like Frank and Karen? Do you like Matt and Elektra together? Or do you like other ships? Sound off in the comments. Let me know. Let's get a discussion going. I love hearing from you guys. If anything changes with the new episodes coming out, I'll probably make a follow-up video. Maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. The thing is, like, I do love Daredevil and I've been enjoying the new season, so I would love more chance to yap about it, but I don't know if people would like to hear me talk about it. Will you guys watch the video? If you guys say you will, I'll make something. But if you like this video, please like it, comment on it, also maybe share it as well. And consider subscribing to the channel too for more commentaries, video essays, random videos, shorts, I don't know, just stuff, I guess. Apart from that, have a good day, night, dusk, dawn. Apparently they say something that dusk and dawn is like the best time to do something, I can't remember.
12 seconds later.
To fly, I think? That's the best time to fly? I'm so confused right now. Anyway, have a good time. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye!